Have you ever felt like, no matter how hard you try, your English just isn't improving? You watch videos every day, study vocabulary, take notes on grammar, but the moment you try to speak, everything just disappears. I understand that feeling. Because thousands of adults I've spoken with on my podcast have told me the same thing. I understand English, but I just can't speak it. And you know what? The problem isn't your ability. It's how we approach learning. We often think that to be good at English, we need hours of study, a native teacher, or to live in the US or the UK. But the truth is, the secret to speaking English fluently isn't in textbooks, it's in the small habits you repeat every day. I want you to imagine this. Think about a child learning their first language. They don't study grammar, they don't write down every word. They simply listen, imitate, repeat, and live in the language every day. And gradually, they speak naturally, not because they memorized it, but because the language became a part of their life. That's exactly what most adults forget. We learn English like a subject in school, not like a life skill. I once worked with a woman named Emily, 32, living in Texas. She told me she felt embarrassed speaking English, even after more than 10 years of study. I asked her, "Emily, do you speak English every day?" She shook her head. She only studied when she had free time, or when exams were coming up. So I suggested a small experiment. Each morning, while making coffee, listen to a 10-minute English podcast. During your commute, play the same episode again and repeat a few sentences aloud. That's it, no textbooks, no pressure. After 30 days, she texted me, "I'm starting to dream in English, and I'm not afraid to speak anymore." See, it's not magic. It's the power of intentional repetition. When you listen to English daily, even just 10 minutes, your brain starts recognizing the rhythm, sounds, and natural sentence structures. Science calls this neural adaptation. Your brain gradually tunes in to English sounds, like your body adapting to a repeated exercise routine. And when you add a bit of shadowing, listening and speaking at the same time, your mouth and ears begin working together. At first, it may feel strange, awkward even, but one day, you'll realize you can speak without translating in your head anymore. I remember saying in one of my podcasts, fluency doesn't come from studying. It comes from living with the language. I want you to try something right now. Look around your room and describe what you see in English, just a few simple sentences. There's a cup on the table. The window is open. I can hear the rain. Don't worry about being perfect. Don't worry about grammar. Just let English flow through you, like water naturally moving. It's just like learning to drive. You can't read a book about balance and suddenly expect to handle the wheel smoothly. You get in the car, shake, make mistakes, then gradually get used to it. English is the same. You can't just study it, you have to touch it, live with it, let it exist in the small moments of everyday life. And the best part is, you don't need free hours. You just need real time. 10 minutes while washing dishes. 5 minutes waiting for the bus. 3 sentences in a journal before bed. These small actions, repeated daily, quietly lay the foundation for fluency. I've seen hundreds of my students transform just by letting English become the background of their life, like music. Like breathing. You don't need to live in the US to speak like an American. You just need to let English live in you, a little each day. So today, I want to leave you with one simple message. Don't wait until you feel ready. No one is ever completely ready to start. Readiness comes from daring to begin, even when it's imperfect. So tomorrow, when you open your eyes, don't rush to check social media. Open a short podcast instead. Listen to a new voice. Let English be the first thing you hear in the day. And bit by bit, you'll notice the language becoming a part of you. Looking directly into the camera, smiling. Have you ever felt like you're not good enough, or not fast enough to improve? If so, remember this. You don't need to be perfect. You just need consistency. Fluency isn't built in a day. It's built in your everyday life. Let English become part of your rhythm, and one day, you'll realize You're not just speaking English anymore. You're living it. Now, let's dive a little deeper into how you can actually practice English every day, not in a stressful, forced way, but by truly living with the language. I want you to imagine this. Every day, you just need 10 minutes to listen to English, maybe a short podcast, a song, or a 1 to 2 minute YouTube clip. At first, you won't understand everything, definitely, but that doesn't matter. Your brain doesn't need to understand every single word to learn. It needs to get used to the rhythm, sounds, and natural flow of English. One of my students once told me, I used to think I had to understand every word to actually learn. But then I tried just listening without understanding everything. And strangely, after a few weeks, I started recognizing some sentences. And gradually, I was understanding much faster. That's the power of frequent listening. Listening isn't just a skill, it's a way for your brain to train reflexes. It's like listening to a new song. At first, you don't know the lyrics, but the rhythm seeps into your memory. And then one day, you're singing along without thinking. But listening alone isn't enough. This is where I want to talk about shadowing, an incredibly effective technique I always emphasize on my podcasts. You listen to a sentence and immediately repeat it, copying the speed, rhythm, and intonation. It sounds simple, but doing it daily trains your mouth and ears to work together. Speeds up your reflexes, and most importantly, you start speaking without translating in your head. Have you ever tried repeating a line from a movie character? Or mimicking the host of a podcast? At first, it feels awkward, but in that moment, you're training your English speaking muscles, like a gym workout for your voice. A small study from neuroscientists shows that when you listen and speak simultaneously, your brain's language network is activated more strongly, improving pronunciation, reflexive speaking, and building confidence in communication. After shadowing, I want you to try a small but powerful next step. Start thinking in English. You don't need to say it out loud, just mentally describe what you're doing. I'm making coffee. The sun is shining today. At first, it's slow, clumsy even, but if you're patient, your brain learns to form sentences directly in English, without translating from your native language. You'll notice that in just a few weeks, speaking simple sentences becomes much easier. On my podcasts, I often ask my audience, if you only spent 5 minutes each day talking to yourself in English, do you think it would make a difference? The typical answer is, I don't think that's enough. But in reality, those 5 minutes repeated daily are a solid foundation. You can even record yourself, listen back, and notice your strengths and areas for improvement. No one else needs to hear it. This is how you focus on yourself, building confidence without fear of judgment. And here's something I always share with my podcast followers. Fluency doesn't come from cramming vocabulary or grammar rules. It comes from living with the language, in tiny, consistent doses every single day. You can turn these short minutes into a natural part of your life, while walking, washing dishes, cooking, or even waiting for the bus. Let English seep into your routine, like breathing, like background music. And gradually, you'll notice the language is no longer foreign, but becomes a natural part of you, an adult living with English, without pressure or stress. Now, let's talk about another step, perhaps the one you'll enjoy the most, reading aloud. I know many people think, I've already read and understood it, silent reading is enough. But imagine you're training your muscles. You can't just look at a book and expect your arms to get stronger. Right? Muscles need activity to grow. And your voice works the same way. When you read aloud, 3 wonderful things happen at the same time. First, your mouth learns accurate pronunciation, how your tongue, lips, and breath work together to produce the correct sounds. Second, your ears hear your own voice, and gradually you notice what sounds natural and what needs adjustment. Third, your brain connects words with ideas more quickly, helping your speaking reflexes become smoother and more fluent. I often tell my students, try a short story, a news article, or even the subtitles from a video you just watched. Read it once slowly and clearly. Read it a second time faster, focusing on rhythm. Read it a third time expressively. as if you were telling a story to a friend sitting next to you. You'll notice that after just a few weeks, your voice becomes smoother, more natural, and most importantly, you feel confident speaking aloud. Here's a fun story I shared on one of my podcasts. One of my students, Mark, 28, used to be afraid to speak in front of others. We started with 5 minutes of reading aloud each day. After a month, Mark sent me a message. "I can't believe it, today I answered an email in English without looking anything up." Mark's story is not an exception. When you practice speaking regularly, sounds, rhythm, and language reflexes form naturally, like a habit. Next, I want to emphasize something important. Make English a part of your daily life. Don't just study, live with English. Some small things you can do immediately. Switch your phone to English. Write a 3-sentence diary before bed, or record a 1-minute voice note about your day. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need anyone else to listen. These short, repeated moments create long-lasting impact. Have you noticed? The things we do consistently every day, even small, can profoundly shape our lives. On one of my podcasts, I shared a story about a learner who spent just 5 minutes every morning silently telling herself, "Today I will try to speak English." A few months later, she realized her speaking reflex had become much more natural. And the miracle? She no longer felt fear when communicating. At that moment, you'll realize, you don't need hours of study. You don't need pressure. You don't need to wait until you feel ready. You just need to start. One step at a time. One small habit each day. But I also want to leave you with a question. Answer it silently to yourself. If today you only do one small habit, listening for 10 minutes, reading a short passage aloud, or saying one sentence to yourself in English, are you ready? That's your challenge. And when you do it, you'll realize progress doesn't come from grand gestures, it comes from small, consistent steps repeated every day. Now, I want to talk about an aspect that many people often overlook: consistency in small habits. Have you ever heard the saying, consistency beats intensity? It's absolutely true when it comes to learning English. You could spend 2 to 3 hours studying one day, but if you skip the next day, your brain almost forgets most of it. On the other hand, just 10 minutes a day, done consistently, gradually builds a language system in your mind. Imagine this. You go for a walk every morning. At first, just a few steps feel tiring, but after 2 to 3 weeks, your steps feel natural, your muscles get used to the rhythm. Learning English works the same way. A short sentence you repeat today, a 10-minute podcast today, and a sentence you read aloud before bed, all these little steps accumulate. Like small footsteps, guiding you toward fluency. I remember a story I once shared on my podcast. One of my students, Lena, 25, works in marketing. She's busy, frequently travels for work, and hardly has time for formal English study. But we started with a small challenge. Every day, record one sentence about her work and listen to it at the end of the day. After 2 months, she told me, "English no longer feels foreign to me. It has become part of my daily routine, and I feel more confident when meeting international clients." See, the magic isn't in long hours. It's in the small moments repeated enough for your brain to internalize and respond naturally. Here's an expert perspective I always emphasize. Learning English isn't a task, it's an experience. Make it part of your life. Like music, the aroma of morning coffee, or the steps you take on your evening walk. When you live with English, listening, speaking, reading, writing, every day, you are rewiring your brain, training it to think and react in English. Have you ever wondered why, when you listen to an English song multiple times, you start singing along without memorizing the lyrics? It's because your brain has absorbed the rhythm, the sounds, and the natural flow. Learning English works the same way. Short podcast clips, sentences you mimic, 3-line journal entries, all of these are your own little songs, helping you grasp the language naturally. And before we reach the conclusion, I want you to reflect on one question. If you spent just 10 minutes a day living with English, listening, speaking, reading aloud, recording yourself, Who would you become after 1 month, 3 months, or 6 months? The answer lies within you. And I want to emphasize once again, you don't need to be perfect. You don't need flawless grammar. You just need to start and remain consistent with these small steps. And now, we come to the most important part: 5 habits you can start today to practice English naturally, fluently, and enjoyably. The first habit is listening to English every day. You don't need hours, just 10 to 15 minutes. A short podcast, a YouTube video, or a song you love. When you listen consistently, your brain gets used to the sounds, the rhythm, and the natural flow of English. It's like having a silent friend teaching you how to speak, without any pressure. The second habit is shadowing, repeating what you hear. As soon as you hear a sentence, repeat it. Don't translate in your head. Don't worry about mistakes. Just mimic the sounds, rhythm, and intonation. At first, it may feel awkward, but I promise you, after a few weeks, you'll start speaking without thinking in your native language. The third habit is thinking in English. Start with simple thoughts. I'm making coffee. The sun is shining today. With regular practice, your brain will get used to forming sentences directly in English. This helps you speak naturally and faster, without that freezing feeling during conversations. The fourth habit is reading aloud. Pick a short passage, a small story, or video subtitles, and read them out loud. First time, read slowly. Second time, a little faster. Third time, read expressively. Your voice will become natural, fluent, and you'll feel more confident speaking. This is like exercising your English speaking muscles, and every session strongly improves your pronunciation and reflexes. Finally, the fifth habit is making English part of your daily life. Write a 3-sentence diary each night. Record a 1-minute voice note about your day. Switch your phone to English, or join an online community. These small actions, repeated daily, quietly create lasting progress. You see, all of these habits are small, but if you stay consistent, they combine and build a solid foundation for fluency. As one of my podcast listeners once said, I thought 5 minutes a day wasn't much, but after 3 months, I was speaking English far more naturally than when I used to study for hours each week. And that's the message I want to leave you with. Don't wait for perfect. Don't wait until you're ready. Start today with one small habit. Every time you listen, every time you shadow, every time you think or read aloud in English, you take one step closer to confidence and fluency. So today, I want to ask you, which habit will you start with first? Share it in the comments. I'd love to know. And if this video helped you see how to learn English naturally, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I'll continue sharing tips to help you speak English confidently, fluently, and live with the language every day. And remember one final thing. Don't just study English, live English. When you live with English, it becomes a part of you, like your breath, like your heartbeat, like the background music you love. And one day, you'll realize, you're not just speaking English, you're living in English.